Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How you all doing? I'm doing well, thank you very much. I thought I would just publish an impromptu video just to talk about a couple of bits, and I've not put a video out now for a few weeks. So I thought it was about time, really. The time is absolutely flying by at the moment. I keep saying it, I know, and forgive me if I do, but that lot repeat everything, don't they? The people who want us to believe everything we're told, so we can repeat stuff too. And yeah, but I'm doing all right though. Thank you very much. I've had a busy-ish couple of weeks, and of course now this time of year it gets quite hectic anyway. Not if I could help it, but you get drawn into it because we're living in a society that celebrates myths and profits from it. Anyway, without getting all too bar humbug, we wouldn't want that, I mean, you're put off for being that as a kid, aren't you? Don't be that, don't be a Scrooge. Well, I know now why, because some people do wise up to the fact that it's all nonsense. All of it's nonsense. I like the family aspect. I like the idea of it being a time of year where you can sort of have a bit of family vibe and coziness within the household and all that sort of stuff, and some nice things to eat and things like that. That's all great. But the other stuff we know, right? It is, of course, it's we won't go into that too much, but it's lies, isn't it? It's mythology, just like Santa himself or anything else for that matter, But anyway, nevertheless, it is upon us, the festive season, and of course to prepare us for the season of joy. They being the ones that run our realm, have laid on a number of lovely distractions. A lot of them are quite to do with NHS and health and doctors and stuff like that. And of course, we've got our old friend Terror back in town, strutting his stuff. So the Terror bit, of course, I'll just whisk through them quickly. We had the Bondi Beach thing that's happened literally today, I think, in the recent 24 hours anyway. In Australia, seems to be the only place in Australia where anything ever happens. Australia, to all intents and purposes, is a rather large country, and yet they only have one stretch of beach where everything happens all the time. Bondi Beach, I only ever hear of Bondi Beach all the time. Bondi Beach, Bondi Beach. But anyway, I'm not saying nothing happened. I'm not saying it did happen. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I always look at the timing of it. I look at the narrative, and I look at what that narrative in that moment could, or what they try and achieve with it, right? That's the key bit here. It's not necessarily about figuring out, did someone die, did someone not die, and all that. That's not really. Yes, it is important for those who are suffering that loss, but what I'm saying is, bigger picture-wise, collateral is of no interest. It's irrelevant. Unless you want to make a point with the amount of collateral, right? And you're invoking numerology. That's a different thing altogether, right? But generally speaking, collateral is just part of the game, right? It's always about timing. At the same time as this happens, literally a couple of hours ago, there were headlines about the Federal Bureau of Investigation foiling a plot in LA, having arrested 4 men allegedly belonging to a pro-Palestinian posse, right? Just thinking Wild West. So they've been arrested at the same time as this is happening in Australia. So, of course, when you're watching this on the news, which I did on purpose before for a couple of minutes, I put myself there and I just watched the screen, and you got your ticker saying one thing, or in fact, there's one headline after another going under here, right? Giant pizza lands on Eiffel Tower. Then you've got above that, breaking news here, right? Elvis lives in Tokyo. And then you've got the top right here in this screen here in the margin, you've got maybe a picture of ambulances and stuff and a few people with some tinfoil around them, and then underneath, terror attack in Bondi Beach or something like that, right? That'll be this part of the picture that I'm drawing out for you now there. So the only bit you've got left to really watch is this bit here and this bit here. The rest of it, here and here, is all stories upon stories upon stories. What are you supposed to, that kind of proves the nonsense of the stories, right? You wouldn't do that. You just wouldn't do that. But anyway, I find it interesting that they're hammering these sorts of terror on the one hand. So the Bondi Beach thing is connected with IS, which I presume is a variation of ISIS, which is a variation of Al-Qaeda, which is a variation of what's connected with the Mujahideen, which is also, let's not even go there. Let's just say they're well financed, but they found a flag in the car. Apparently it was a father and son combo that had gone out on a shooting spree. They left a flag of their IS nation, whatever, that was found in the car, and that was that, right? And they went and killed, I think, according to the scoreboard, 15 people, including a 10-year-old child. And if that is true, then it's sickening. Of course it is. And an 87-year-old person, I think being the eldest, who was, according to the story, a Holocaust survivor. But like I said, I'm not going to add my opinion to it for one reason. And that is that when you're saying things online now, especially YouTube, you have to be so careful what you say and how you say it. Freedom of speech doesn't exist. Definitely not online. It's nothing to do with safety precautions. Comedians talk about it all the time, don't they? If you feel put out of joint or something or whatever, then that's on you. You know what I mean? Or disrespected or something like that, whatever. You can change channels and watch someone else. But to be censoring people, or in my case, shadow banning, most people that I know who are subscribed to my channel don't ever know that my content goes out. And I can make the comparison because when I put my videos up on Facebook, it's like 10 times the amount watch it on Facebook, even if those numbers are even true, by the way, as compared to my YouTube account. Yeah, that's the way of the world. Certain people who talk about certain things that aren't perceived as factual, well, they'll be laid obstacles in the way, and they'll be monitored particularly carefully. And if you say one word or type one word that triggers an algorithm, that will be that, and it's a really sad state of affairs, to be honest with you, that I can't sit here and really tell you my true opinion of it all. But I'm not going to form an opinion on why a certain story was threaded into the massacre story of Bondi Beach, and that is that the Jews have been victimized on this terrible day, and one of those victims, well, two of them were rabbis, one of them was a survivor of the Holocaust. That's the official storyline. I'm not going to say either way to it. I'm just passing you on the message, and that's that. My opinions I'll keep to myself offline for self-protection purposes. I've already been accused of being a racist for having Larry in the background, which is why he's making another appearance. Because he isn't. It's not racist. It's not in accordance with the narrative set by the agenda, or the people who set the agenda, I should say, right? Nobody ever worried about a gollywog that was on a jam jar back in the day when I was a kid. It was never, ever an issue. Kids didn't see it like that. Definitely not. And I didn't. And they're childhood memories for me. So that's why I am bringing him back. I took him out of my videos for a long time. And I thought to myself, well, there's me doing exactly what I moan to other people about. And that's complying. That's appealing to consensus. What freaking nonsense. I love these puppets in all colours, in all sizes. I don't care. They don't have any racist kind of value to me. At all, zero. But if you are offended by it, like I said earlier, comedians tell jokes about it all the time. Oh, it's just jokes. Ricky Gervais gets away with it all the time. Telling people that if you're offended, that's on you. Well, I don't care what he says, by the way. It's something I've been saying since I was a kid. You know, everybody likes to dish it out, but when it comes to taking some, a lot of people struggle with that, right? But having Larry on my videos, and that is a historical artifact, it's not a sign of racism at all. And what, by the way, does racism even mean? Thought it was a human race. And is race just a skin colour pigment difference? Or is race defined also by national heritage? Let's say if you're born in I don't know, Taipei, and you're English, if he had to go at you for being white, is he racist? Or are you just racist if you're talking to people who we're told are black? They're not even black by colour, are they? Has anybody ever seen the colour black? Yeah. And I'm definitely not white either. Have you ever seen the colour white? Anyway, getting pedantic and stupid there, but this, you know, they're the narratives. People fall for the narratives. The narrative gets set, and everyone goes and goes, oh yeah, well, and then you watch each other and see, yeah, Tom's doing it, Dick's doing it, Harry's doing it as well. So we'll do it. It seems all right. Bollocks to that. Excuse my language. No, sorry, not being a big rebel about it, but that's my world. That's my past. That's my history. It has a meaning to me that absolutely has nothing to do with anybody that may think in way, shape or form that I'm in any way sort of racist or anything like that. And that doesn't even make sense anyway, by the way. I've got about 3 or 4 nationalities running through my family. I'm born in Germany for a kick-off. But anyway, you got to laugh. You got to laugh. You know, the virtue signalling is quite incredible, I have to say. Right, so we have that going on, right? So one attack foiled in LA, another one went down in Australia. So that's sort of even Stevens, if you like, according to the narrative. But what it does do is it gives you the impression that we're being hit all over the place. And that's exactly the point. That's what it's trying to generate, is that fear factor, really snowball it up. Then on the other hand, locally now in the UK, every other country will have their own local catastrophes going on. But here in the UK, it's very much health service related, right? It's also politics related, but I don't even look at politics anymore. I go way above their heads because politicians are irrelevant. They are literally irrelevant unless you make them relevant for yourself. But they are, in the grand scheme of things, totally irrelevant. They're just people who pass on the messages that they've been told to pass on. They're mouthpieces. That's it. And they get employed to get through a certain period in a certain way, and then they're axed in a certain way, either through a scandal, either just through the coming to an end of a cycle, whatever the reason may be, right? But they are per se, in terms of true authority and power, irrelevant. Just like the king signs papers, irrelevant, not worth the paper it's written on. Just all constitutional theatrical nonsense. That's all it is. It's all BS. It took me a while to understand, but I've got there in the end. So we've got our health services now. We've got people, according to the local news, dying on their beds in corridors because the wards are overfilled, because the hospitals are understaffed and undermanned. So here we go again with the narrative of don't go to your hospitals because you're putting a strain on the service. You've got on top of that resident doctors going on strike this Wednesday for 5 days, which the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has commented on and called, and I quote, irresponsible. Pot, kettle, anybody? Then we have, what else do we have here? So the resident thing, beds in corridors. Richard Sunak was sat in front of some sort of inquiry today talking about the COVID outbreak and how they dealt with it all and stuff like that. Of course, I didn't really listen to that. You know, I'd rather sit on a cactus, naked, bouncing on my head down a slope, you know, into a valley or something like that. I don't know, something terrible. I'd rather, I don't know, that guy or any of these people, as soon as they open their mouths, I just find them so despicable and disgusting. Dear, oh dear. What else have we got here? And of course the flu narrative that's being pushed like hell. On top of the flu narrative, by the way, quick one. Did you notice, anybody notice the whole whooping cough thing? They made an announcement last week that whooping cough injections would be reintroduced and offered to parents of infants, right, under 1 year old, for example. Whooping cough, I remember when I went to school, was announced as a thing of the past. A bit like the volcano that allegedly Edinburgh Castle was on. It was supposed to be dormant, done. But here we are again, and allegedly last year 12 kids died of whooping cough. Okay, so now they're reintroducing a whole vaccination program for whooping cough. On top of they've been busy, haven't they? On top of flu jabs. People still getting boosters, by the way, for the other stuff? Or is that all stopped now? Oh, it's all much ado about nothing. Oh, right. Silly me. Yeah, so we had that as well. So they've been talking about whooping cough, vaccinations, jabs. Then we're talking about flu jabs and stuff like that as well. You get your flu jabs, it's particularly bad this year. That's been validated by stories from hospitals telling patients that if they come to hospital, please, depending on which wards you go to, wear your HSBC symbol, you know, the bank that does that, and it goes like that on both sides. I said, as soon as I saw that emblem for HSBC, bleeding face mask. Anyway, yeah, they're already telling patients now that if you come into the hospital and you're going to ward XYZ, you have to wear a face mask. Well, guess what, folks? No, you don't. Same thing applies as it did 5 years ago. You do not ever have to wear a face mask. If they necessarily want to see your, whatever it is, you know, to show that you're, exempt, you don't have to either. You don't have to. Again, the worry and the fear, if you're feared up, if you've had the jab, what you're scared about, just don't be don't be not victimized, wrong with you. Don't be, you know, having a go at those who, you know, see it differently for reasons that they can prove. But it all got unheard. Well, you know, let's see what happens with all the next round of nonsense. But anyway, there's a lot of these little fear-mongering stories going around now in the UK. The same thing, I think I talked about the water issue. There's water problems, and they keep talking about water problems, drinking water problems and things like that. That's a narrative that's now setting itself in. You've also got the new boss of MI6, a lady called Blaise. Let me see, I wrote it down. Blaise Metravelli. She's talking about how we find ourselves as a nation in between peace and war. Really, wow. Profound. I never would have guessed. So if it was peace, a lot of people would be unemployed, essentially. If it was war, you'd know about it. So I guess we're in between the two. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, right, okay. Nothing new there then. And she put particular onus on Russia. How Russia needs to be, you know, are we capable of basically standing our ground against Russia? Well, Ukraine are. So I'm not worried. You know, what was anyone worried about? Nuclear Armageddon? No, I'm not worried about that. I've said it before, that ain't happening. Never happening. There are reasons why that's not happening. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and have a look back to my videos a few videos ago. You know, yeah. It's, again, a very simple principle. If something is non-manifest, in other words, doesn't exist, not just doesn't appear or not visible. Not visible doesn't mean non-manifest, right? But if you haven't even seen something ever through any equipment you've ever used, right? How are you ever splitting something? Just a question. Because you have to split this something that you've never seen before in order to then create this so-called chain reaction that's required for then these so-called atomic nuclear warheads to function. It's the chain reaction in that nuclear sort of blah 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 that causes it, right? Again, food for thought. I'm not going to say too much on it because I don't want people to think that I'm spreading misinformation here on this channel. Absolutely not. I would encourage everybody to go and do their own research. What does that even mean? Well, just just rummage around, have a little look, you know, find your bits of information, and then you do the adding up together in your own head. You don't wait for someone to tell you that's how it is. You go look. You know, start with the atom and then take it from there. And then you could ask yourself also, well, why haven't we had a nuclear war at all? You know, you had allegedly, I'm going off tangent here, but I'll say it anyway. It's a favourite topic of mine, actually. But, you know, I call it the American decade. It's something that I'll be making a point of when I do give my presentation next year. And I'll mention this to you very quickly in a minute. But we do have a new Flat Earth meetup planned. We're still in the pre-planning phase at the moment, but it will most likely be London as a location. We're not too sure yet exactly where in London, but probably southwest. But there will be something happening definitely next year. It's just a question of when we can get it together logistically, because there are a couple of us who met at the Flat Earth Social who are on the same wavelength in terms of the same idea. So we want to get our heads together. Sandra, my darling, she lives around that area, so, you know, she's got the advantage of being able to have a look at the locations that we might be looking at, and she found one. So it's promising, and I'll keep you updated once I know more. Haven't thought of a title yet either. We're not agreed yet on a title for the meetup. So there's a couple of things we have to clarify yet. But there will be a meetup up and running, and there will be in the future a London meetup. Like there should have been already by now. There should be multiple meetups in London, really. But there aren't. Which, again, baffles me. Anyway, all right, so that was all a little bit muddled and back and forth and to and fro and up and down and roundabout and, you know, all the rest of it. But I'm trying to read me notes. See, I should have just put my glasses on, shouldn't I? It would have been fine. But I wrote down all sorts of little notes here all over the place. And then, you know, you sort of... It's funny with me. Sometimes I can be hyper organised, really well organised. Excuse me. And then sometimes it just takes 2 or 3 little things, and then suddenly everything goes to pot for a second. So yeah, quite interesting. ADHD and all those sorts of things, you know. That is a topic I'd love to talk about as well. That's another thing I have planned in the near future as well, is to have a podcast surrounding the topic of ADHD. Something I wanted to host with somebody maybe, but that again is for another day. But that's an idea that's been spoken about recently as well, you know. And also plans for another podcast as well regarding Old World, specifically Old World buildings and things like that, because I feel also there's a message missing, or there's wrong messages. I will say it. I'm just going to come out with it now. I believe that the predominant amount of Old World presenters are getting some of their narrative wrong for whatever reason. That's just my personal opinion. I think a little bit with the flat earth thing, where people are talking about domes and ice walls but have no proof of domes and ice walls. Proof of ice shelving here, there, yeah, fine. But we don't even know what shape the earth is from above, do we? We have no idea what contours the earth has, if any. I mean, I've been up high in an aeroplane and I've looked through either window and there's land as far as the eye can see. So we're obviously on a rather large plane, level plane that is. But much like the flat earth thing, where there are things being invoked to bolster a flat earth story that simply isn't validatable or hasn't been validated, well, it's the same with the old world stuff. A lot of people keep quoting things like Tartaria and things like that. Well, first of all, there's still a region called Tartaria that actually exists. I've said this before. I don't know why people ignore me on this. It's got a town there called Perm, like your hair. And this whole Tartary thing about they came over. Where's the proof of any of this? Where's the proof, please? Right? I'd like to know. It's all right writing a book and then being very so eloquent and wearing good clothes and stuff and all the rest of it and presenting well. But I still like to know the fundamental answer to my fundamental question, and that is, if you're going to talk about Tartaria, for example, just as an example, then where is your proof? I don't look at Tartaria is a thing. It's not like some sort of ancient empire that fell. So what are you doing? Are you still believing that before that there were Romans and Greeks and all that as well, and that the Romans built all around the world and the Greeks were the brains and whatever? So everyone's buying in to a certain degree to already the official narrative and stuff like that. The church, the Vatican, all those lies, right? Religions in general. And to be honest with you, it's frustrating me a little bit. Tartaria, what does that even, it's on maps. I can draw a map. And nowadays you can do it well because you've got software, apps and shit like that, and you can do yourself real good stuff and it will look top professional with everything. I can do your map. I can invent some lands. I can invent little islands off the coast of what we call America today and say that California was once separated. I can write Shilaga or Shilawa, whatever the frigging city was called that they now call Chicago, and go, look, it's on a map. Maps don't prove anything. Maps prove nothing. If there's something I've learned by realizing that the Earth is not a spinning water ball hurtling through an impossible vacuum of space at 2 million miles an hour, there's something I've learned about any of this is the fact that the answers are very, very, very simple. But they've been made complicated over time, especially through your school time and everything else. And yeah, but the answers to the questions that we have or that I have are very, very simple. And once you know them, or once you kind of you get at least a feel of stuff rather than maybe all the answers necessarily, then other things become very easy almost to see or notice, you know. But I can only talk about the stuff that I can observe and see and notice. Yes, I could also indulge and go talk about stuff that I'd like to be true. But if you're going to do that, you're going to have to then announce the fact that you are only speculating. However, how about this for an idea? Well, yeah, okay, I would buy that because you're leaving it open to people's interpretations, a bit like a good song lyric, right? However, you know, you got a lot of people going around doing talks and appearing on each other's podcasts, massaging each other's egos as usual, inviting each other on each other's podcasts, telling each other how wonderfully big each other's dicks are, and nicely shaped on top of all of that, right? I mean, it's just so sickening. It's like everybody needs this loving every now and then, and they've got to tell each other, "Oh, you're wonderful. Oh, so are you. Oh, so me. Oh, no, you though. Oh." Gosh, you're great. Come on my pod. Let's talk about stuff we've already talked about 10 times. And let's put it out there for the followers to feel more like followers. I'm cynical enough. Honestly. So I'm steering clear of a lot of stuff there as well because I'm not happy with some of the stuff that they're putting out. It's speculation and it's absolute nonsense. It's just as nonsensical as saying that the lava that spews out the top of a volcano originally comes from a frigging molten core, right? Also nonsense. Right, so on that note, already approaching half an hour, so you've made it this late into the video, congratulations. Yeah, I just wanted to have a little chat and just have a little sort of get things off my chest, and like I said, I've not been on a video for a little while now. Like I said, it's been a busy time. But hopefully get through this next period. I do struggle around Christmas, I'll be totally honest with you. It's a difficult time of the year for me. I know I'm not the only one. So I have to do certain things to make sure I stay on the right side of... yeah. Those who know, again, no, I don't want to make it all too cryptic and stuff like that. But, you know, I haven't drunk alcohol for years and years and years, for example. And I want to keep it that way. And Christmas is a time that challenges you, right? And I'm not going to do it. But it's tricky and you have to do the right thing and put the work in and stuff like that to make sure you stay on top of things. And it's like that in life as well. Things don't stay on top of things on their own. You know, you have to stay on top of things yourself. But I don't mind saying that to you and mentioning it. I think those who know me closely know my story anyway. So there's no real secret. And it's nothing bad. It's nothing. I'm definitely not embarrassed about it. It's the biggest challenge I've ever had in my life, and it's an ongoing one that I have every day. But I embrace it. I'm glad I don't fall foul to the you know, yeah, to that chore of having to drink every day or whatever, you know. But anyway, I'm not going to bore you with my personal stuff. But like I say, I always struggle around Christmas, and I'm a sort of person who reflects a lot anyway. And I need to be careful around that. You know, so if I hear certain music, I know I'm not the only one. I know there are plenty of people out there who feel the same. You hear, I mean, I've not heard the Slade song yet. I've not heard the Paul McCartney one yet. There's a few I've not heard yet. I'll be quite happy about that. What about Christmas songs, right? Because it's things like that that get me anyway, and they send me straight back to certain situations, joyous ones that I know are never going to be again, right? And that saddens me. In a different world, certainly felt like that for me, where the people who had me included, had a naivety about us that was fresh and was sort of sweet, and all the rest of it. You know, I mean, the powers that are must have been rubbing their hands with glee before they started putting things out there that had been planned right from the start. Anyway, on that note, I will endeavour to put another video out, or two perhaps, before Crimbo itself, you know, and then we'll take it from there. Apart from that, I don't have any other announcements apart from the Flat Earth meetup that we will do in London soon. I'll bring out some more information about that once I know more, but that is definitely the plan. We're going to do that at some point. I've got some good people who are going to be working that with me, and we'll make a thing of it, and we're going to make sure we have a destination, because I know loads of people who are crying out for a place to go and meet up. There isn't one. And not everybody wants a presentation. And that's nothing against the Flat Earth Social. I love the Flat Earth Social. You know, big fan of the Flat Earth Social. I go there. I try and help where I can. Problem is, I've had too much of my own personal stuff to juggle with, unfortunately, including a couple of, you know, compassionate things that have happened recently as well and stuff, that it's difficult to then just simply make yourself available, no problem, right? So if I've let anybody down on that front, all I can do is apologise, but it's certainly been of no, you know, no malice, and it certainly wasn't premeditated on my part. I'm very enthusiastic about all these topics, you know. So, and they need talked about, and you need to talk to people who are willing to talk about them, and you don't get that in a normal pub, you don't get that in the library, you know. I mean, if you ask for certain books in the library, yet looked at with such disdain, it's like, okay, sorry. But anyway, right, thank you. Sorry for the noise there, just fiddling a bit too much. Thank you very much for looking in. I hope to see you all soon this side of Crimbo. Some of you sooner, hopefully this side of next week. You know who you are if you're watching this video, and you know, get together and take it from there. But keep your eye out, take your time, keep calm, deep breaths, and you know, remember, just don't comply. Simple as that. Seriously, it's that simple. Take it easy, and ta-ta for now.